Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you have been here for a while, you will know that I am a big supporter of the Akutagawa Sho, the Akutagawa Prize. Here in Japan, it's a literary prize that takes place twice a year, and it celebrates literary fiction. But there are other literary prizes that exist in Japan, and recently there was a Japanese booktuber who just did a video where he was discussing the Yukio Mishima Prize. And that's a prize I know by name because obviously Yukio Mishima is one of the most famous Japanese authors. But I realized I know nothing about the prize, so I wanted to look it up, and I thought I would share that information with you guys. So the Yukio Mishima Prize is quite recent compared to the Akutagawa Prize. The Akutagawa Prize was established in 1935. The Yukio Mishima Prize was not established until 1988. So considerably quite recent when you take into account things. It is based on the author of Yukio Mishima. Yukio Mishima you should know for his most famous works, The Golden Pavilion, Life for Sale, The Sailor Who Fell from Grace. You should know for his for his machismo. You should know him for his political views. He's quite famous for having cut his stomach out of rebellion, etc., etc. He was a very wild character, and he is one of the most well-known authors in Japan, both here and abroad. So it makes sense to have a prize established after him. Now, while the Akutagawa Prize focuses on literary fiction, and it's literary fiction that focuses very much on social issues within Japan, a lot of recent books that have been nominated have focused on LGBT issues. We've been having a lot more mixed blood Japanese authors, or Japanese authors or foreign authors writing in Japanese who are giving unique perspectives. A lot of women's issues, women who are single or women who are in marriages. Just anything, just any sort of social construct that exists in Japan and is written in a literary format is basically what you're going to find Akutagawa Prize. But the Yukio Mishima Prize prizes itself on being more experimental, or looking for things that are much more experimental. Now, does that mean experimental in style or just experimental in topic? Still not quite sure. It does seem to be more experimental in topic because it also gives the word controversial. So we were looking for controversial works, we're looking for experimental works, and according to the tagline, we're looking for works that break new ground for the future of literature. When it comes to comparing Akutagawa Prize and the Mishima Prize, you'll see that a lot of the authors being nominated do actually overlap. Sometimes there can be an author that wins both prizes, but for different works, or maybe the same work. Although I'm not familiar with the short list for the Yukio Mishima prizes, so I can't tell you which books were nominated for the Mishima Prize and maybe won the Akutagawa Prize. But you will see very, very familiar names on both sides of the prize. This also is a fact in terms of the selection committee. So the selection committee. So the current selection committee for the Mishima Prize has Hiromi Kawakami, Kaoru Takamura, Noboru Tsujihara, Keiichiro Hirano, and Ko Machida. And if you look up the current members of the Akutagawa Prize selection committee, you'll recognize Hiromi Kawakami and Keiichiro Hirano are also on that committee. So it's very common, again, to have authors being nominated for both prizes and also to have authors being on both selection committees. So there is quite a bit of overlap. But when I was looking into the prize, like the whole thing that's amazing about the Akutagawa Prize is that I think because it explores Japanese social issues, but those social issues can also be not translated, but also the social issues in Japan are not just limited to Japan. While Japanese authors are writing about Japan, those social issues are quite universal. And so I think they lead well for translation, and they work well for foreign audiences to read. So basically, these days, the Akutagawa Prize has become so famous and so renowned that if you win the Akutagawa Prize, you're pretty much guaranteed to be translated into another language. It's pretty much guaranteed. The Mishima Prize, though, does not have that. So looking up what has been translated from the Yukio Mishima Prize, only 2 winners have been translated into English. Now, I don't know about other languages, but only two winners have been translated into English. So the first one is the most recent one. This was a book that won in 2011, and I think the translation came out about 3 or 4 years ago. It's quite popular on BookTube. Quite a few people have read it. And that is the book, This is Amiko, Do You Copy? By Natsuko Imamura. But the thing is that I don't think that book was translated because it won the Yukio Mishima Prize. I think that book was translated because her other work, The Woman in the Purple Skirt, won the Akutagawa Prize, and that was translated first. Okay, so once they translated that one, they got a gain to see how well that book fared. They took the risk to translate another work of hers, and then they chose the work that won the Yukio Mishima Prize. But I definitely don't think Yukio Mishima Prize is the selling point of This is Amiko, Do You Copy? I think the selling point is that she already had a book, the Akutagawa Prize winning book, that won. Okay. But since the Yukio Mishima Prize looks for controversial, it looks for experimental, what is it about This is Amiko, Do You Copy that might have interested the committee members? So reading out the blog, it says that other people don't seem to understand Amiko, whether it's eating curry rice with her hands at school or peeking through the sliding doors at her mother's calligraphy class. Her curious, exuberant nature mostly meets with confusion. This book is subtle, tender, and moving, and shows us life through the eyes of a unique, irrepressible, neurodivergent young character. Looking at just the blog, the blurb, just looking at this blurb, seems like this book could have equally been in the Akutagawa Prize. I don't see too much difference in style when it comes to her Woman in the Purple Skirt. While I have not read This is Amiko, Do You Copy, I have read a collection of short stories that this author wrote called Ahiru, which means goose. And that, having read that one and the Woman in the Purple Skirt, this author is definitely an author that takes everyday events within society and just gives them a sort of creepy, a sort of almost horrific twist to them that really plays with the reader's mind. So I do think that's experimental. Is it controversial? I don't really know. Maybe because, some of the plots get kind of wacky, so you can consider that controversial. But when you compare it to her Akutagawa winning prize book, just from the blurb, they don't seem too different. So it's interesting that this was a Mishima Prize, right? Prize winner. Another winner that had been translated is a book, however, I have not read. It's called Asura Girl by Maijo Otaro. It was the winner in 2003 for the 16th Yukio Mishima Prize. And the blurb for that one reads as 17-year-old Aiko lives a life of casual sex and casual violence, though at heart she remains a schoolgirl with an unrequited crush on her old classmate Yoji Kaneko. Life is about to get harder for Aiko as a recent fleeing Sano has been kidnapped and the serial killer Guruguri Majin has begun slaughtering children. The youth are rioting in the streets, egged on by the underground internet bulletin board known as Ten no Koe, the voice from heaven. So that one's a little bit weird. That one's a little bit out there. But I don't know. That's what they're looking, right, for the Yukio Mishima Prize. Now there have been 3 books that were nominated for that prize that have been given into English translation, and I'm going to give you the most surprising result when I looked this up. 1988, the very first book that won the Yukio Mishima Prize was a book called Yuga de Kanshōteki na Nihon Yakyū, which means an elegant and sentimental Japanese baseball. That was the winner of the Yukio Mishima Prize in 1988. This book is it's about a world where baseball has culturally vanished, and in it, a former Hanshin Tigers player gathers baseball terminology from library books to reconstruct the sport. Apparently, it's a masterpiece of postmodern literature, brimming with parody and nonsense. So that's not the part that's amazing. Guess what book was a nominee that year but didn't win the Yukio Mishima Prize? The answer is Kitchen by Banano Yoshimoto, which is probably one of the most famous Japanese works in translation. Right? Isn't that killer? So the winner of the Yukio Mishima Prize, the very first year of the Yukio Mishima Prize, has never been translated, at least not into English. But Banana Yoshimoto's Kitchen has traveled the world. It's been translated into pretty much every language in existence. I would still consider it the most famous Japanese book that's ever been written and translated into English translation. That book, everyone knows of it. Everyone, and the thing about that book is that people who aren't interested in Japanese culture have read it as well, right? So it's not limited to just people who like Japan. So I think it's fascinating that book was a nominee, but didn't win. But that was the book that was translated in English, because later on, Banana Yoshimoto was huge, right? Huge, absolutely huge. So I think that's very interesting. There has been another book that was nominated and translated. There was a book called The Apprenticeship of Big Toe P. This was a book, I don't remember what it's about. It was a book that looked interesting though. I was tempted at one point, but just never ended up picking it up. But that one in 1994, and I believe the translation came out maybe 10 years ago or so. It's a pretty recent translation when you consider how long ago it won the prize. So again, Yukio Mishima Prize, it's not getting much what's the word, encouragement overseas, at least not in English translation. So that's what's already available in English. There is one other book called Emily by Novala Takemoto. I haven't looked up what that one is. I haven't even heard of it, to be honest. But it won in 2003. But I have no idea when that came out into translation. I really have no clue. I've never heard of it, to be honest. But let's see what the latest prize-winning book was, or the last prize winners from the last few years. So basically, the Yukio Mishima Prize the winner is announced in May. So while the Akutagawa Prize is announced late January and then late June, I believe. I'd have to confirm those because I always post my videos very late after the announcements. I always forget when the actual announcement dates are, but I think it's late January and then late June. But yeah, the Yukio Mishima Prize is announced in May. So the next one's going to be in May 2026, and that's going to be the 39th prize. But let's look what happened last year for the 38th Yukio Mishima Prize. Let's see what kind of books are winning this prize. So the winner last year was a book called Tachibana no Ie, which means the Orange House. And that book was written by Nakanishi Chisano. And the book blurb is, when she was young, Emi fell from the second floor of her house, but was saved by the tangerine tree in the garden. Since then, rumors spread that Emi acted as a conduit for the tree's power, and many people hoping for children began visiting her home. Though bewildered by their reliance on her, Emi fulfills her role, yet this casts a dark shoulder over her. Interesting. This book, the title I have heard of this title, but I have to admit that I never knew what it was about, and I never knew it won a prize, but I have at least heard about this one. Tachibana no Ie I've heard of it. Now, the winners of in 2024, 2023, 2022, I will tell you, I have never seen these books in the bookstore. I have no idea what they are, or I didn't know what they were until I looked them up. No clue whatsoever. I really have no idea. So the 2024 or the 37th Yukio Prize winner was a book called Midori Iseki. Iseki can mean a few things. There's no kanji given in the title. I'm going to assume it means ruins in the case of this particular title. So it would be green ruins. But I would have to read the book to confirm which definition of iseki they mean. Because iseki can mean, it can mean other things. It's a homonym for quite a few words. It's by an author called Stephanie Kanto Ota. And I didn't translate this this blurb, so I'm going to translate it on the spot. So there's this boy, I assume, who was thinking about dropping out of school, but he accidentally ran into this boy named Haru that when they were in elementary school, they used to do percussion together. So he runs into this boy named Haru and they sort of reunite. And from that, it seems like an innocent reunion, but this boy Haru invites our protagonist to join what is called a yamibaito. Yamibaito means the part-time jobs in the dark. Literally means part-time job in the darkness, which basically means like any job dealing with like seedy stuff. So like brothels or love hotels or soaplands, which are brothels here, or maybe host clubs or hostess bars or girls bars, just anything that's kind of seedy. You call those yamibaito. So Haru, this young boy that he used to be friends with when they were young, invites him to get a job in that industry. And from that, it's like, instead of showing the underground side of that world, apparently it's showing like the other side of the world, kind of sort of the positive sides of it, or at least it's showing that while it's very, it is a seedy type of job, there is a little bit more to it. And that's what this book is trying to show, while also depicting this idea of like teenage solidarity, right? So that was the 2024 winner. The 2023 winner for the 36th Yukio Mishima Prize was a book called植物少女, which in the case of this particular book, I think I would translate the title as The Vegetable Girl. It could be The Plant Girl, but for I decided to translate as The Vegetable Girl in terms of the blurb. What's interesting though is, as I mentioned before when I said that a lot of authors overlap, this author was written by Aki Asahina, which, if you recognize that name at all, he was the winner, I believe 2 prizes ago. I think 2 prizes ago, where he did the 49th Day of the Salamander, which was the book that I DNF'd because I don't really like. But that was the book where Aki Asahina is himself a practicing doctor, and he was using his knowledge as a medical doctor to write a book. And this book that won the Yukio Mishima Prize is also sort of the same thing. Basically, there's this young girl who has a mother who is in a vegetative state, and the book is talking about her caring for her mother as she goes from childhood and she enters into adulthood. But yeah, so this is an author who's won both the Yukio Mishima Prize and the Akutagawa Prize. So again, lots of overlap. How is this book more experimental? How is this book more controversial than the other book? I don't really know. But apparently that was the case in this situation. In 2022, for the 35th Yukio Mishima Prize, there was a book called, it wasn't a book, but the title that won that year was called Broccoli Revolution, which means broccoli revolution. And this is a book, it turns out, excuse me. This is a book that when I looked up, so Broccoli Revolution is like a short story. So when it was published as a collection of 5 short stories. And I can tell you, I looked up this book like in so many different ways, and I read so many reviews, and every single review was like, I read the first three stories of this collection, and then review them, but not a single one reviewed the Broccoli Revolution story. So I have no idea what this book is about. It was actually really annoying, almost. Like some of the reviews, like there was a review that said, I had to return this book to the library before I could get to the second story, which, thanks, that doesn't really help me. But there are 5 stories in the collection. One of them takes place in a small room by the sea. That's what they tell me. There's another book where a character comes back to Tokyo, where he says they might never return after that. There's a story about the endless renovation of an underground passageway of the Yokohama station. And then there's a story about the soccer boys, the famous soccer boys, the soccer team that was trapped in the Thai caverns. And then there's a story about the rising star of a theater world, which depicts our lives in a world tangled beyond repair. Which one of those is the Broccoli story? I have no idea. I'm assuming it's going to be the theater one, but not a single review told me, so I cannot tell you. But yes, it's a short story. So there you go. That's sort of what I was able to pick up on the Yukio Mishima Prize. What would I choose out of these, to be honest? I mean, I would read the This Is Amiko, Do You copy? I already have plans to read that. I just need to pick it up in Japanese. Aki Asahina, his book, the Shokubutsu Shoujo, the Vegetable Girl, I didn't like his book when he won the Akutagawa Prize, so to be honest, I'm not going to pick that one up. Maybe Midori Iseki, that could be interesting. Or I mean, Tachibana no Ie, I'm pretty sure that one did pretty well. I feel like I've heard a lot of good things about that one. I think that one really stayed in the bookstores for quite a long time. So I don't know, maybe that one. But I don't know. Let me know if you've read any of the Yukio Mishima Prize winners, either the ones in English, either the ones in Japanese. Do these books sound more interesting than the Akutagawa Prize winners? I don't know. Let me know. Maybe this is the beginning of a new interest in the prize for foreign viewers. So who knows? Anyway, thank you so much for watching my video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!